We are now going to get started on the ballast installation for this boat. That's going to include installing our through hulls, our new pumps, doing all the plumbing for the 4 bags that we're putting in, as well as wiring up the switches and plumbing everything for the system. We got our stuff from Fat Sack here. I'm just going to kind of walk you through what we got. We've got our wire harnesses that are all ready to go. They got the switches on them, so we'll just run these to our 2-way pumps. The pumps will both fill and drain the bags, so we won't have to worry about running excess plumbing for them. They'll be able to all have one fill and one empty hose that's the same. We are going to be switching up the switches on these a little bit to make it look a little bit more OEM and look pretty cool, so I'm excited for that. We have our 2 750 bags that are going to be going in the rear lockers. These are just standard bags. We did make custom ones for the front bow and for the front locker. That's what this one is, and this one is. And then in this box, we've got our 3 pumps, our 3 2-way pumps that are going to be going in. And then over here in this box, we've got all of our hose that we'll be using to run for this project, as well as our through hulls. Our check valves, our bag hookups, as well as the fittings to hook up to those, and then all of our hose clamps. So we're going to get this started by check fitting all the bags that came with. We'll just fill them with air to make sure that they fit in the spaces that we sent out to Fat Sack. And then we're going to move on and start working on those through hulls and drilling them and getting them prepped, so that way we can get everything plumbed up and get all the wiring ran. We're going to go ahead and test fit this 750 in this rear locker here, and then we'll move forward to our bow bags afterwards. We're just going to fill them with air in order to test fit them, and should give us all the information we need to know for these. And then after that, after we're done test fitting all of our bags, we'll move on to installing our through hulls. And comes up here into our front seat a little bit, which is great because we're distributing that weight even more.
Welcome back to the 2006 Maristar build. Today we're going to install the ballast system. We have 3 of these Johnson reversible pumps. 113 pounds a minute is what these will fill. So we'll have no problem filling our ballast system in the 5 to 7 minute range with all the bags we're putting that in this boat. That's what we've really found to be key with kind of the factory ballast systems, is anything past 10 minutes is a really long time. So we do everything we can in the design to make sure that we can fill in the 5 to 7 minute range. These are all going to be plumbed in with 1-inch hose to all the bags, so it'll have really high flow and make sure that we don't have any restrictions. We're going to go ahead and install 3 through hulls, so that you have 1 through hull per pump. Splitting these off is going to reduce flow, which is something that we don't want. So we're going to go underneath the boat. We're going to use our hole saw here, and we're going to drill 3 holes. We're going to show you shortly how we're going to locate those holes, where we're going to drill them, why we pick those positions, and things like that. You always also want to install a shutoff valve on top of the through hull in case you need to maintain your system and you're in the water or something catastrophic happens, you can shut the valve off. And then we have a hose barb on the top here to connect our hoses to run right to our bags. You'll see this mushroom fitting just similar to what you normally have factory. This is the same as an OEM system that you'd find in a boat today, 2022. And we're going to use Fast Cure 3M 4200 to install the through hulls. It allows us for a quick cure so that we can keep moving, we can tighten everything well, and get this boat back on the water shortly. This stuff cures in about 24 hours. The 5200, the typical stuff that they use as a permanent adhesive, you don't really want to use in this case as it will never come off. And if for some reason you ever need to pull these out, 4200 is plenty strong enough, and it is removable. And the 5200 takes 6 to 7 days to cure, so it's a really long time if you're trying to get back on the water. So the first thing we're going to do in our next step is to install the through hulls, get those drilled. Then we'll go ahead and mount our pumps and run our hoses, install our ballast bags, and then get all the wiring done, and we'll be done with this system. So follow along. We're going to go ahead and install the through hulls. All right, the first step in installing the ballast system in this 2006 Maristar. This boat does not have a ballast system. It didn't have any ballast system whatsoever. A lot of these boats, when you're getting into them, do have some kind of a ballast system. So, give us a call. We can help you design a system around that. Since we're starting from scratch, we're going to build it like a 2022 boat would have, with 1-inch through hulls and all inch and an eighth hose, inch connections to the bags, inch vents, so that everything flows nice, vents nice, and it'll be just like a brand new factory boat. So what we're going to do first in this boat is we're going to go ahead and jump in the engine cavity, and 2 spots that are pretty common to install these through hulls is in the area right around the V drive, so kind of in front of the engine towards the driver. There's usually some good spots. Since we removed that big black muffler when we installed our fresh air exhaust system and we went with stainless steel straight pipes, there is a decent amount of space behind the engine, which we're also going to look there. What you want to make sure of is that you're not in front of the paddle wheel. If you install a through hull in front of the paddle wheel, it will disturb the water, and then the paddle wheel isn't going to spin like it should, and it can cause issues with your speed control. And we also want to make sure we're away from anything else that is down there. We're not going to hit any kind of other through hulls or anything like that. And we also want to make sure we have plenty of clearance once we attach our shutoff valve and then our hose barb. This is somewhat tall, so we want to make sure that it's not going to get in the way of a seat sitting down or some kind of a compartment sitting in there, or that it'll be in the way of anything. And this is a straight hose barb. We can also get 90s hose barbs or sweep hose barbs. So depending on where this hose has to run, we may end up switching this out with something that sweeps forward or backward, so that we can have a better direct line to the bag. Now once we get this all stacked up and then we put the hose on, the hose is somewhat rigid, so it's not just going to immediately 90. So again, just want to make sure that you have plenty of height clearance wise to get all of this stuff installed before you drill the holes. What we're going to do to find the hole location and make sure we're drilling in the right spot is we're going to use 2 heavy-duty magnets, and we'll have a link in the description on the magnets that we use. But basically, when we put one on the bottom and one on the top, they're going to connect, and then we can move them around, and we can actually set this right on top of the magnet. It's brass, it's not really magnetic, and ensure that we have the right clearance. We can check the bottom side to ensure that we're not in front or next to anything that might cause any issues. Make sure it's a flat surface so that this cap will seal nice and tight and not leak. So those are kind of the things that we're going to be working on now, and ensure we have the correct spots. And we'll show you that process here. All right, we're right by the V drive here. Let's see the V drive here. We have kind of 2 spaces on each side of the V drive where it looks like it'll be good for this through hull contraption. I've stuck a magnet kind of where I think might be a good spot, and I'm just going to check the movement of both with it closed and make sure I have enough clearance. and then open it and make sure I'm not going to be in the way of anything. Again, I'm checking the height, so the hose is going to come off of this and it's going to run towards the back of the boat along the side over here. So it looks like we have plenty of height. We're not in the way of anything that's going to move, that's going to have any issues here. So we should be good. Jake's underneath the boat with a Sharpie and the other magnet. So I'm just going to kind of guide him in the placement of that magnet so that he can kind of connect it. Once we know they're connected, then we'll go ahead and trace the magnet with a Sharpie and we'll have our hole to drill. So Jake, I'm 4 inches back from the main through hull. On the port side of the boat from the center line, I'm up about 6 inches. All right. Oh, hold on. So he caught the magnet. You can see it move. I'm just going to move it to the exact spot that I want. And obviously his magnet's moving. I'm going to just verify again that we're not going to hit anything with our valve. Make sure that we're far enough away from this back wall so that we can close it. I actually want that valve shut off to be as close to the back wall as possible, so I'm away from this transmission. So it looks right there. Okay, go ahead and trace it. Tell me when you're done. All right. So now I'm going to take this magnet here. And I'm going to adjust the camera here a little bit so you can see it. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing. So we got the trailer bunks under there and we're starting to get close to them, so we just want to make sure we have plenty of clearance from that too. And that looks like as good a spot as any. All right, go ahead and trace that one. All right, I don't think we can get a third one back over here. Every other location that's decent is right on top of a bunk. So we're going to move behind the engine and see if we can find a spot there. Hopefully we can find a spot that's good there, and then we'll install our third through hull and we should be good to go.
All right, so we're under the boat here getting ready to drill our holes, and first thing we want to do is make sure we've got clearance around our fitting here. As you can see, we're going to be just fine with where we got those magnets traced. We will be using a 1.5 inch hole drill bit for this, and we're going to want to drill right in the middle of that, and it's going to give us our clearance for that. And what we do before we use that though is we're going to use our drill here with a standard 1/4 inch drill bit on to drill our pilot hole. We're going to drill in reverse first through the gel coat and then go forward. And the reason we do that is we don't want the gel coat chipping it all. And the reason we drill a pilot hole is sometimes after you get through with the drill bit, it can jerk, and we don't want that hole saw jerking into the gel coat before we're able to put it in reverse. So I'm going to take my ruler real quick and get us a center point for this. As you can see, we've got our first hole drilled there. Our fitting fits perfectly in there, and we'll go ahead and do the other two now.
right, guys, Jake got all the holes drilled on the bottom of the boat. We got all of our 3 through hulls apart, and we're gonna go ahead and glue these up with 4200 fast cure, and then we're gonna shove these, through the bottom of the boat. We'll put these nuts on. There is a tool that you can get that fits inside of here, and then you can kind of hold it up and then tighten the nut from the top. We don't have one of those, and we've always just kind of used like an open-ended wrench and a crescent wrench, and just kind of something that fits in here. And there's 2 little notches or kind of plugs that stick out, and so this kind of just pinches in there. And then we'll go ahead and tighten it from the top. And we use a combination of a crescent wrench and channel locks to kind of get it nice and tight. We'll make sure it's perfectly tight. And then we're not going to do anything else. We're going to let that sit for the night, and then tomorrow we'll go ahead and attach our valves and everything. And we used white Teflon tape for all of that, make sure everything is nice and tight and sealed, make sure we don't have any water leaks. And then we can get to mounting the pumps and wiring and the plumbing side of it. So Jake's gonna go ahead and crawl underneath the boat. You can see this has a little channel in here, so we're gonna overfill this channel with the 4200. We want it to squeeze out a little bit, and then we'll clean up the excess underneath the boat just to make sure that we get a good seal all the way around it. That will ensure it. So Jake's gonna like fill it up here. He'll push it up and squeeze it, and then we'll just give it a little bit of a twist just to make sure it squeezes out all the way evenly, and then we'll go ahead and tighten the nut from above, and then like I said, just let it sit for the night, and then we'll get to the rest of it tomorrow. All right, we're going to go ahead and glue these up. This tacks over in about 15 minutes, so you don't necessarily want to do all 3 of them and just let them sit here. We've crawled underneath the boat and cleaned off around the holes with alcohol to make sure there's no contaminants or anything that on the bottom side of the fiberglass. So now we're just going to go ahead and like I said, fill up this channel. We're going to do one at a time again, because it can tack over in like 15 minutes. And we're going to overfill this channel a decent amount so that it'll squeeze out, and we know we get a good bond. All right, so we got all the adhesive in that channel. We're going to climb underneath the boat, we'll shove it up there, we'll tighten the nut from the top, and then we'll go to the next 2. All right, shove it through, Jake. Seat it and then give it a twist. Is it squeezing out everywhere? Okay, keep it right there, okay? Okay, you ready for me to tighten it? You good? All right, it's about as tight as it's gonna get. Let's clean up the excess and we'll go to the next one. For that one, due to the clearance issues, we were just able to grab it with the channel locks, and then Jake underneath with our box wrench and crescent wrench tool tightened it up for us. Made sure it squeezed around everywhere, and we have one left. Make sure you take the stickers off the threads before you put these on too. A lot of the times these have stickers, and that can really be a pain in the butt when you're trying to tighten these up and get stuck on the sticker. All right, go ahead, tighten it up. All right, all three of them are done. We're gonna let those soak, make sure the glue gets cured, and then we'll go ahead and do the rest of the project.
Now that we have both of our pumps mounted and our through hulls have had time to cure, we're gonna go ahead and get our valves installed here. So what that's gonna involve is the hose barb that'll come out of the top of our valves, as well as screwing our valves down onto our through hulls. And so before we do that, we're just gonna add Teflon tape around the threads of our fittings here, both on the hose barbs as well as in the boat, and then we'll get those screwed on nice and tight. Right, so we'll get those tightened down with some wrenches, and then we'll move on to our boat and get Teflon tape around the through hulls. All right, we're gonna put some Teflon tape here on our through hull at the back of the boat. We'll take our valve and get it tightened down here. So I ended up taking out the handle here on our valve. All it was one nut and washer here. I didn't have enough room for clearance against our muffler, so I just took that off quick. We'll screw it on tight and then get that handle put back on. All right, so now we have plenty of clearance for our handle here, and we will be able to get our tubing on this really easily. So next, we'll move on to the next two through hulls. We'll start off again by wrapping these in Teflon tape and screwing our fittings on. Alright, so now we got both those installed. The next step in our plumbing process will be running the hose to our ballast bags and cutting it to length and then tying everything down. Now that we have our through hulls installed, we're going to go ahead and get our pumps mounted, and then after that we will run the wiring for those pumps, and then we will work on getting our hose run to our through hulls and to the pumps and then into the bags. We're going to let those cure still for a little bit longer before we install any of the valves, and then once those are all cured up, we'll be able to finish up the system for this. So we're going to go ahead and start by mounting our 3 pumps in the back. We're going to do 1 behind the engine and then 2 behind the seats. It's literally a very simple process. There's 4 grommets that you want to make sure to put on the back of your pump for vibration so it's not shaking the boat too much. They're going to reduce some of that movement. And then you want to make sure to mount your pumps so that the impeller is on the bottom or to the side. You don't want it above the actual motor, because if it were to leak any water at any point, you don't want that dripping down into the motor. So you either want it sideways or on the bottom here. So we're gonna go ahead and mount those three, and then we'll start with the wire running. And we're gonna run all of our wires to our Blue Sea fuse box and put it next to the amplifier on that panel we made under the seat. We're gonna go ahead and mount this pump right here. There's plenty of room here for our hose to fit, as well as our electric to run. So I've just got 4 stainless steel screws, so that way we don't have to worry about rust. And the only thing to keep in mind is like what's behind here as far as upholstery goes, but we are good there. I already checked to make sure we weren't going to poke through anything. All right, so we got those in there nice and steady. We're just gonna go ahead and start running our wiring now. All right, so that wraps up everything for part 1 of our ballast install. We got our through hulls done and we got our pumps installed. In the next section of our video, we will be installing our plumbing in our bags. We already got the bags test fit, but we're gonna go ahead and fill them up and empty them out and get all that steps done, as well as finishing up the switch panel. So if you're interested in that, make sure to stick around for the next part. We appreciate you watching our videos. Make sure to comment if you have any questions. We're here to help. Give us a call, send us an email, and we'll help you get your boat where it needs to be.